People watching us, talking on this video, may be considering whether to hire an attorney for a Social Security hearing. Obviously, we would love for you to hire us. We do a good job. We pride ourselves in doing a good job. But please, don't go to court unrepresented. Everybody who goes to court to try to get Social Security disability benefits needs to maximize the chance of winning. And really the best way to do that is to have an attorney. An even better way to do that is to have an attorney who's done this a long time and knows what he or she is doing. But please, don't go to court without an attorney. It's not good.
Jeremy, Ed was talking about hearings, and I think one of the important things that people need to understand is it's not enough to just show up and expect that if I tell the truth about what my problems are, that that's going to result in a favorable decision. Or perhaps I've got a note from my doctor. My doctor says I'm disabled, so surely that's enough. And we know that that isn't enough. It's a false expectation on behalf of many clients or claimants that they think that if they just tell the truth, that's going to mean things are going to turn out the way they want them to turn out. And we know, because we've been there, that that isn't enough. It's not enough to just tell the truth. You have to be able to prove the case from a legal point of view. And that's where we come in. Jeremy, you were telling me that many times our firm has been hired by claimants who are themselves or were lawyers?
Sure. I mean, you and I know how complicated these things are because we do them every day. I think it speaks to the complexity of it that a lawyer won't necessarily represent themselves in these proceedings, that they need a lawyer that specializes in this area of law because it's so complex. You and I know what to expect going into court because we've done it so many times, but how complicated are these things to someone who's never done it before?
The evidence itself is complicated. The medical terminology is complicated. But you're also more likely than not to run into a witness that has been hired by the agency. Sometimes it's a medical expert, many times it's a specialist in the area where the impairment is. Very frequently it's a vocational expert. And this is somebody who was going to talk about jobs that they think a person can do. And the nuances are very, very fine in terms of asking that expert whether any particular limitation or any particular impairment might have an effect on their answer. And I cannot tell you the number of times that we have had unfavorable testimony, and if an attorney hadn't been there, that hearing would have stopped right then and there. And the judge turns and says, "Counsel, do you have any questions?" "Well, yes, Judge, as a matter of fact, I do." And 5 minutes later, the vocational expert is testifying there are no jobs that can be performed. That's the difference between having an attorney and not having an attorney in a Social Security hearing. And the poor claimant who doesn't have an attorney doesn't even know that that's the next thing that has to be done, doesn't know how to cross-examine a medical or a vocational witness. And we do. And I can tell you many, many times, I have asked 1, 2 questions, and the expert has done a 180-degree turn and testified that that person can't work. It's not a matter of how many questions, it's a matter of knowing what to ask. And that only comes from experience.
So we're not potted plants.
We're not.
No, we're not potted plants. One of the things that I constantly have to remind myself is to view the court experience from the client's perspective. For us, going to court is like riding a bike, like breathing. It's what we do. But for the client, going to court is a very hard day. It's not fun to go into court and tell a judge what you can't do anymore. It's not fun to go in and tell a judge what's wrong with your health. So it's important, I think, when we go to court that we understand it's a difficult day for our client. and that the best thing we can do is to be so prepared that the client has the best chance possible that day to prevail.